Hey, Christine. Can you hear me? Hey, Lake. Hey, Nick. Can y'all hear me okay? I don't have very many bars, so I'm assuming I'm probably breaking up. Hey, Babs and Chris. Has it got that god awful breaking up sound from a bad connection, or am I good? Hey, Crime. So I need to send. Did Early Riser ever answer about telling us what she had found out about Chad Daybell? Does anybody know? Well, I'll just send her a link, and if she can, then she can. If not, that's cool. It's so muggy today. Oh my goodness. So I went to my email. Hold on, let me send this really quick. Okay, so I just sent it to her. I do have her email. So she should have got the link if she wants to come on. That would be awesome. But when I was in my email, it reminded me that I got this message earlier today. Huh, what's this? Man, these bots they're on Spreaker too. You know how they have the bots on the YouTube and they get in and they like comment that they want to be your friend or whatever. So I have that on Spreaker too. It's so weird. You're like, what in the world does this mean? Is this like some kind of hidden message or code? This never makes any sense. But anyway, so I go to my email today and I get this email it's from someone in GEDmatch. Are you guys familiar with GEDmatch? I think we talk about it a lot on Angie's channel of the and others, the new show that's out, the what's it called, new detectives, genetic detectives. Yeah, GEDmatch. So I opted in to share my profile, my genetic profile, with law enforcement. And I also, which in turn, you're sharing it publicly on GEDmatch to where anyone that matches your DNA, and you can choose, like, I went ahead because I want law enforcement to be able to have a way to contact me. Otherwise, what's the point, right? And so my email for Cold Truth Podcast is on there. That's the one I used. And that's the one I go to the most. I could have used my other one, but I'm always on this one. So I get a message from a genetic match to me on there today. And the person was basic, like we're related in some way. I'm assuming probably from what I was able to gather when I looked up if I have the right person that I think that sent me the message, then we're probably, maybe third cousins once removed, like pretty distant to where I wouldn't necessarily know exactly who she is, but she's looking on behalf of someone else as well. And so I'm like, well, this is really cool. And she's trying to find certain information, and she listed like where these family members that were not her paternal family members, but that she's trying to look into lived. And that's exactly where my family's from. So I'm like, how long ago did I do the Jed match? I think it tells me on there, I think it was exactly 91 days, 91 days ago or so. Which they changed everything. So I've always been like on Jed Match, but I had not realized that I had not actually, I thought I did, but I hadn't opted in because I did my test through 23andMe. Oh gosh, in 2007, 2000, no, wait, I'm so bad at time. Anyways, it was, yeah, like 7 years ago. Had to have been around 7 years ago. And it used to be, they could use all of them, and then they changed it. Well, I had sworn I opted in back then when they changed it, but either I didn't or rules changed again. I'm not sure. But yeah, so 81 days ago, I redid everything. Plus, I went ahead and uploaded my DNA to Parabon, which was super cool. You all should check it out if you have. And you don't even, with that one, it obviously it would be nice if you did, but you don't have to have your raw data like profile. It appears that if you sign up, they will test you if you'll be a part of the research for free. And they'll also give you kind of like a small bit of your ancestry. Like they'll give you a report as well. And so you sign up, you download this app. It was super easy. And then okay, early riser. I'm just chatting about my cool email I got this week. And then, oh, wow. Sorry, I got a follow-up email and missed it. Yeah. Yeah, I do know. I do know her. I know her family. I don't know her personally, but I know these family members. So how cool is that you can get on here and find long lost family? I mean, that's just so cool. You know what? No, it's not. I was just listening to a podcast earlier because I'm trying to really get in. I know a lot about um, the this part, the ancestry. I don't see the ancestry wasn't what drew me to it. It was more the medical things that I could learn because around that time was when my daughter was being diagnosed. And so I did it more for the medical genetics, but I've always loved Cece Moore. So that's kind of, I understand the genetics part of it because you kind of have to if you want to learn about, genetic disorders. But as far as like getting into the genealogy, man, I don't even think I want to know. I mean, my family is large. And just from uploading to the different sites that I have, I get people that reach out to me all the time. Like, we were adopted and we found a relation. We saw that, we're related to you at blah, blah, blah. And you had family in, West Virginia or, at these different places. I'm like, oh, Lord, like, how do I tell them? Like, what do I say? Like, yeah, you're one of 16, but you were, it's just like, it's really hard. And I always do reach back out because, I mean, if I was adopted, I would want to know who my family is, but it's pretty crazy. And you just see that, what do they say about the 6 degrees of separation or 2 degrees? I don't know, something like that. Somebody in the chat will know. But I thought it was really cool that we've already got like a little mini investigation going on from someone reaching out. And her original, like, why she was reaching out was, which was just cute the way that she'd said it, was like the, curiosity of why I had Cold Truth podcast. So she must have looked it up and realized that it was a crime podcast. And she had, the email had said, do we have a potentially nefarious member of the family? Question mark, question mark. And that she was, looking into something that falls in her triangulation that involves some people from the areas that I have family in as well. So that was super cool. And hopefully we can work together and figure out the mystery of this, what's going on. But I do know that my family, we're from where we're from and who we're related to. We get a lot of crazy things because we're Hatfields and McCoys, both. So, and a lot of family members marrying family members. That's West Virginia for you and Kentucky. But one of my great aunts has our family tree, and I did have the link to it because it was on Ancestry, I believe, but I'll have to see if I can try to find it. But it's super cool, but it's just overwhelming. My immediate like extended family, which would be like my aunts, uncles, first cousins, second cousins. I mean, on both sides of the family is ginormous. Like, we can't even have get-togethers at people's house. I mean, it's just, I have a huge family on both sides. But yeah, I mean, a big reason why I uploaded mine was, like, I'm sorry, but if I have a killer in my family and my genetic profile helps nail the bastard, sign me up. Like, oh, want me to go back. Oh, you're backstage. Oh my gosh. Lord, I'm sorry. Wait, you're gone now. Can you go back? Oh, there you are. Right, Lake? Like, I hope, I know that there, people that get scared about it, but I just really don't. I mean, maybe that's a little naive of me, but I like it. Can you hear? Can y'all hear Early Riser? Because I can't.
Can you guys hear me now?
Wait a minute. Oh,
Are you there?
there you are. Hi. I
Hey.
forgot I had my earphones plugged in, but they were like sitting over to the side. And so you actually just scared the crap out of me because you were like whispering to me from my headphones. And I was like, oh my God, there's someone in my house. I don't have blonde hair, but I should at this moment. How are you doing tonight?
I'm okay. How are you doing?
Good. I have to ask, your accent, it's like a little bit country.
And a little bit rock and roll.
You do have that edge. There's like some words that you say that I'm trying to like pick up where I've heard them from. And they're just a little bit of a twist to the Southern draws that I'm used to.
Yeah.
Am
I breaking up?
You've lived somewhere overseas, but settled somewhere real south, like deep south. Am I totally way off base?
No, well, a little bit, but
Yeah, I figured.
I've been on oh God, the baby's up. Hang on just a minute.
You're fine.
So I've been on vacation before, and it was in the state that I live in, and some people heard me and my friends talking, and they thought we were from Australia.
Yeah, there's like this little, I don't know what it is. Just on some of your words, it sounds very Australian. Like Australian.
Yeah.
European. I couldn't put my finger on it, but I'm like, man, where have I heard that? I love your voice. You have a great broadcasting voice.
Well, thank you. So I didn't catch what you were talking about. I think it probably has something to do with the Parabon.
Yeah, the
Is that what
Parabon. I had I just recently uploaded to that. And yeah, I totally got sidetracked. I didn't take my meds today, so I'm a little bit all over the place. But it gets bad. But see? Thought lost.
It's okay. Well, no, we do in the LDS church. They're really big on doing family history work, and
yeah,
I can actually, if you want to, we can talk later about why that is. But it comes down to things that are done in the temple. So they, like LDS people, started FamilySearch.org, all those ancestry sites that you guys have probably heard of. Most of them were started by people who are LDS, and I'm telling you, when you get on there, my intentions were to get there really quickly and find one particular thing, and I ended up staying up till like 2:30 in the morning.
Right?
It's so easy to get. Just keep clicking on the leaf or keep clicking on the thing.
Right.
And yeah,
I got that. I was doing so good today. I've almost finished the script for the opening to the podcast that I'll be releasing this week for Shannon Polk. I'll share. Thank you for popping in. I know you've been going through some things, and I just wanted to say that I love you and I am here for you. And I wish that there was something I could do to make you feel better. And hopefully, after all of these delays, there will be some movement for your brother. It tears me up that they don't. And I know I've said this on other people's, and I don't know if you heard it, but it just doesn't make any sense to me why they wouldn't they're not charging him. And I know it doesn't make sense to you guys. And it's long and tiresome, and it just keeps dragging on. And I know that hurts so bad, and I hope that they do charge him for that, because it's an aggravating circumstance for Nicole, and he may not get, a very long time for Ray, just because and I know you guys agree with me that some things were botched, but with Ray's the initial investigation. I mean, it's pretty clear when you have to take them evidence that now that's inadmissible. So I'm not, but if they did charge him with something of what he's admitted to, he could get more time with the Nicole case, and he would get that more time with Ray as well. And I wish there was something more we could do. I just had to stop and say that really quick. And hang in there. Like, we're not done. And I know that we've talked about different strategies with moving forward, and we're just waiting. The time will come when we're done doing that.
Where can I learn about what you guys are talking about? Because I don't know anything.
Oh, Ray Hainish, Charles Ray Hainish, he was killed here in Indiana, Reynolds, Indiana, on March 13th of 2019 by Garrett Kurtz, the killer of not only Ray Hainish, but Nicole Bowen. I don't know if you've heard of that case either. Some of my episodes on my podcast are about them.
That's not the same one? I think I've heard of it, but vaguely. I hadn't been able to listen to all your podcasts yet.
Right.
So,
probably the Shannon Polk ones. But yeah, I've been working with, first I started working with Ginger, and then Cheryl, and then Cher and her sister Roxy and their mom Dottie. And we go to court. We've been trying to help move those cases forward and just be there for those families. Hey, Monica, I'm so glad you're here. Very cool. Yeah, Monica and Cher, they always join me on my lives. It's usually the three of us on the podcast, because when I upload a new one, it has a live chat on it, so people can kind of do what we do here, but on the Spreaker. And I hope people will join us, because I'm not going to be uploading them to YouTube anymore, because it takes away from the downloads, and I didn't realize that. So I'm just going to leave them on the podcast, and then we can pop over here if anyone has any questions or whatever, but we can chat live on there as well. So it's kind of fun.
That will be awesome.
Yeah.
Cher, I don't know any details, but my heart goes out to you, girl.
Yeah, it's a sad one, and it's disturbing, because as of right now, there was 5 involved they're definitely involved in Nicole Bowen's murder. And at least one is involved, but the papers say that the other ones are cooperating with the investigation for Ray Hainish. So at least some of the 5 know about what happened to Ray. And Garrett Kurtz, not only did he confess to Nicole's murder, but he also confessed to killing Ray. And he said it was an accident. This kid is just riddled with accidents, and I'm being super sarcastic there, because,
Right.
there's people dropping dead all around the kid. He's definitely a serial killer in the making, for sure. He's only 21 when this happened.
Oh, wow.
Both of them. And they were only, March 13th and March 30th, I've done some episodes where we're trying to, is he, because the definition for a serial killer has kind of changed over the years. So it can be 2, just depending on, they usually try to, 3, but what I was reading earlier last week was 2. So
yeah, I thought it was 2.
And we've deliberated him with the deliberating Delphi that I did about Garrett Kurtz.
Yeah.
Because he's, in my opinion, he's a pretty good suspect for Delphi. He's one of, and that's not saying that he is the Delphi killer. It's just saying that there's more evidence or more things that you can find that link him to it, including his family statements, than there has been any other suspect that has been looked at by sleuthers for Delphi. And I find it so odd that the media is radio silent about him when they've like done national news about Charles Eldridge. Like, really? Who ever thought that guy did it? I mean, yeah, he caught my attention. Paul Eder, Daniel Nations. I mean, they don't even live near here. Thomas Bruce, but yet there's nothing said about Garrett Kurtz. I don't know. Is that telling? What do y'all think? It's weird. It's weird to me that they haven't. But anyways, so you're telling me that the LDS is a big reason why we have these Ancestry, 23andMe, and those kinds of things?
Yes.
Wow. That's crazy. You learn something new every day. I did not know that. So, hold on. No, there's no fee, Lake. You can set up just a free profile. You can use whatever, you could be pantyhose on there. You don't have to use your name or anything like that. Oh, you're Shady Corrupt? Is that is she saying that's her name? Can you see the chat early?
Me?
Yeah.
Yes.
But you just can't comment on it, right?
Right.
Right. Okay.
Yep, I'm reading.
So what is there? What is that? Why is that so important to the LDS community? The ancestral tracking of ancestors and finding out.
So essentially, it comes down to the families are forever concept, and Mormons teach that there's a literal way to make that happen. And the way that you make it happen is by going through the temple for your own, first for yourself. But then after that, every single time that you go after your initial time, you take the name of an ancestor that has passed on. And the goal is to do get as many as you can so that you're all linked together. And so when you hear people talk about getting sealed in the temple, well, they, the Mormons believe that it's literal. Like, you make covenants, and if you keep your covenants, you'll be with the person that you're sealed to forever, and that your kids will also be sealed to you. So once you've had that done, you go back and do it for the dead. So you seal, go in and stand in as proxy to do the ceremonies as them.
Huh.
Yeah.
So you're going to be sealed in heaven?
Yes.
So you'll still know each other? Am I way off track, or? So you're like a special group of God's children, like to where you get to stay together?
Well, that's it's hard to explain. So, no, we don't think we're a special group of God's children. We think that, are we part of the elect that were held back, to come forth at this time on the earth so that we can do God's work? Yes.
Yeah.
That's part of the doctrine that comes from leaders. It's not necessarily in the scriptures that we have, but it comes from the leaders. Well, that's part of what we have to do. And we believe that during the millennium, after Christ comes, we're supposed to do temple work for 1,000 years. And I got to tell you, like, just out of respect for the Mormons, I wouldn't dare go into what's done in the temple. They're, real big on not revealing that. They say it's sacred, not secret, but whatever. But just out of respect for them, I'm not going to go into detail, but I got to tell you, if we're going to be doing that shit for 1,000 years, I'm out. I'm out. Where do I sign up for hell?
Well, you could come to my heaven.
I mean, like, it's so crazy because I remember seeing people, and you got to keep in mind that I was raised in this, and I would notice things when I was younger, but as an adult, it's just like, what the fuck? Like, people would just cry and boohoo and get so giddy about the second coming of the Savior and all this kind of stuff, and I'm like, y'all are crazy. Like, this is crazy. I can't do it anymore.
Right. Yes, and I remember, I know you heard me talk a little bit the other day, and like we've been emailing a little bit about my plan for us of what I would like for us to do, because I really do, like, I didn't grow up LDS, but I grew up ultra conservative, like, what is their saying? Independent, fundamental, Bible believing Baptist church, King James Version only. Like,
yeah,
a very, right? I mean, that's a mouthful, but there were, and not necessarily the Christianity, but some of the teachings were very man-made and cult-like, because it's all interpretation, with whatever book it is, whatever religion that you have, it's based on faith and interpretation to the best of us humans' abilities. And so, yeah, like, I can remember thinking, what? There's going to be like a Chinese army and like two men coming down that like aren't real.
The Daybell cult believe that.
Huh?
The Daybell cults believe that the Chinese, I think it was Chinese and Russia, would take over America. But yeah, I know exactly what you mean. When you're little,
right?
You're told to go by faith, and just to keep going. You don't have to know all the answers to everything and all that kind of stuff.
And they literally just scare you half to death. We couldn't sit around a bonfire without, I mean, if like camps and stuff, I don't know if you had to endure that as well, but every bonfire, whether it was a youth group, camps, or church, and they're showing all these little kids, this is the fire pit of hell, and this is where, if you do A, B, C, and D, you're going to be here and you're going to be on fire forever. I'm like, what? There's fire in hell? Like, that didn't make any sense to me, because fire is earthly, right?
Right. Yep.
So it didn't make any sense.
Let me real quick. Okay. Let me answer.
Yes,
let
me answer. I saw that.
Wombat's question. So when you're sealed, what that means is, this is the way the missionaries explain it whenever they teach people about it. What they say is, in a regular civil marriage, you say till death do us part, but in a covenanted temple marriage, it's not till death do you part. Like, you're sealed together for time and all eternity.
Whew.
But it's interesting because a man, like, if a man and woman are sealed and the wife dies, a man can be sealed to another woman without having to undo his first sealing. But if a woman is married and her husband dies, she cannot be sealed in the temple to another man, which I think is just ridiculous, because if they get more, why don't we?
Right. Well, that's not surprising, considering how women are treated in religion.
I mean, well, there's polygamy, but there's also polyandry. I mean, come on now.
Polyamory?
So yeah, polyandry.
Polyandry. I haven't heard that one. What does that mean?
if you're in a polyamorous marriage, it means there is more than two people in the relationship. But polyandry, if I'm not mistaken, is a woman with more than one husband. And that's kind of like when they had the split. Yeah, well, no, when they had the split with the LDS, with the mainstream LDS, and then the FLDS, the fundamentalists. So the fundamentalists were basically practicing what we kind of believe is going to happen in quote unquote heaven anyway. That the men, if we get to what they call a celestial kingdom, then supposedly we will be married to the spouse that we're still to on earth, but the man will have multiple wives. So
Of course he will.
yeah, I'm not ready to put up with that
Why are
shit.
men so
My husband,
exalted in these
I was like,
religions? Like, why are men
it
so
gives them,
exalted? If it
well,
wasn't
it
for us,
gives,
they would not exist.
well, no, it's enticing. It's enticing. I mean, who doesn't want to be a member of an elite club? You know, I
Right.
think that's how it's appealed to people. Like there's something very elite and exclusive for a very select group of people. And, you know, people buy into that. I mean, they also always, what I've noticed with cults is it provides certain answers. As human beings, we have, I mean, it's in our DNA, it's in our everything about us. We want to know who we are, where we came from, and where we're going, or most people do.
It is.
So they usually give you the cults will give you the answer to those questions.
Well,
And
yeah,
they, you know, that
an
essentially
answer. A
well,
answer.
yeah, essentially it's they give you an answer. And it's also, but you have to do these things that we tell you to do in order to get
Right.
this. Yeah.
Right. Which is mind control and manipulation. And I know from like a lot of it when I grew up and was like, man, like there's so much that doesn't make sense. And I went back through, I read the Bible through 2 times and I had 2 highlighters because I grew up in a very Arminius church. I don't know if you've heard of that, where it's the free will, like man has free will to choose God, to choose to be a child of God and to accept what comes with accepting Christ. But then you have the Calvinists, which I went to a Calvinistic church for a while as well. And they believe that we are elect. We are this like, these God. And yes, I mean, you're talking about a God that is omniscient and all knowing. So he does, but we're trying to put it in man's terms of understanding because the ideologies are polar, they're opposite. You can't have free will of man, and in the minds of Arminius and Calvinists, you can't have the free will of man because you are predestined, you're pre-chosen by God. So they don't go together. But if you read, that's why I went through the Bible with highlighters, and they're both there. So while we may not understand them, God does. But they use that, especially the Calvinistic teachings. It's fitted for domestic abuse and oppression. I don't know about
Yes, it is.
LDS, but
No, it absolutely is. And
right?
it's very hang on just a second.
Has she not? She's just been awesome. I've learned so much, and I love that because I really think in order to understand your own beliefs, you have to understand other religions. And that's why I like learning about other religions because it helps you understand and know why are you going to stand on that. Obsto specialio. I'm probably messing it up, but it's Latin for stand or fall. Why are you going to stand on that? And because if you don't know, you're going to fall for anything. And I don't want to fall for anything. And so that's why I like to study everything. And I encourage my children to study everything, because you can't really truly have a good understanding without knowing other things. And that is so frowned upon. I mean, I remember I went to a Christian high school, and in biology class, we were asked to do a paper. Now remember, this is a science class about creation versus evolution. Unbiased paper about creation and evolution. So that's exactly what I did. Not only did I get a big F, but I also got a lecture and taken into the office for a while, because I was now like, my salvation was in question, because I did not like come out in my science paper, key word here, that was supposed to be unbiased, comparing evolution versus creation, and dump on evolution, which was like,
Yeah,
that was the assignment you gave me. So I'm not sure why I'm in trouble. And not only is my science teacher, but she's now brought in the principal and the vice principal to talk to me about my soul.
yeah,
Like,
that would have scarred the
this is
shit out of me.
crazy. Huh?
That would have scarred me too.
Right. I mean, I just find it, I mean, because I was like, at that moment, I thought, y'all are so dumb. Like, I don't even know how to talk to these adults in my life right at this moment. I remember thinking that, like, is this like a prank? Am I being punked right now? How am I in trouble for this? This is what you asked me to do, but I guess I was supposed to know that I wasn't supposed to do that assignment that way. I'm not sure, but grew up with a lot of that. And, then did the demonic things were, because I know I was asking you, like, just firing off questions. You probably didn't even see them all in incognitos live, but
Mm,
I'd ask about demonic possession, if that's what you were talking about, because that was a big part of the fear that I grew up with, was that, the,
yeah.
just
So
a lot.
yeah,
But so the
they
temple,
do.
I do have, I'm not going to, I respect that, but I did watch the shows and documentary. Nope, 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 nope. Not going to do it. Documentaries.
Documentaries.
Documentary. See, I try to do it again. I have to say it really fast. Documentaries on the FLDS with Warren Jeffs, and
Yeah,
some of the things that happened in that temple
yeah. No,
were,
I heard those too. Yeah, I think
that's
that's
not what you're
where.
talking about, though, with the like
No, that's
children and
they.
the molesting and
Right. No,
no,
that kind of thing doesn't
not
go
that.
on at all in
Okay.
mainstream
Well, that's good to
LDS.
know.
No,
Okay.
yeah. No,
Well,
that
that's
was
where my
terrible.
mind went.
Yeah. No, not at all. They do believe in spirits, and we're taught in the scriptures and even in the temple, what to do if we encounter like an evil spirit or something like that. Hang on, can we back up? What were you guys talking about? Where Paul? Who's Paul? Do you
Paul.
see it in the comments?
I saw a Mark.
I thought they were talking
Who is
about
Mark?
somebody. Let me find it.
Skull and Bones. A lot of people want to know what sealed meant. Yeah. Yeah, hey Wes, you can have a username that's pantyhose. Yes, you sure can. On Spreaker. I'm not seeing a Paul. Anybody help us out? Right, Wombat? Like, I'm glad to hear that too. Yeah, yeah. Um, did y'all see that? Warren Jeffs documentary.
That was crazy.
I was sick.
So the
And then
tapes. Did you get to hear the tapes?
yes, he is. I can't. His voice is so.
It was hard. It was hard to listen to.
Oh,
No, but did you hear the tapes of when they were in the temple and they were at the altar and they with the little girl? She was like 12.
right.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
couldn't hardly stand to listen to that. But I don't know if you guys have heard of Sharon Powell, but she was somebody that was no, I'm sorry, Susan Powell. She's missing and she's never been found. They were LDS. Her
Oh,
husband and the father-in-law, like the father-in-law was stalking her. He was like in love with her. And he had become anti-Mormon, so he wasn't Mormon anymore. But Susan and her husband were married and sealed in the temple, and he ended up killing the two sons. I'm not. I just started looking at it again, but it's on a podcast on Stitcher. I don't know which one. I'll have to go back and find it. But um, they they play the tapes that he kept. We're told to journal in the LDS faith, like to write our thoughts out and stuff for our
and then
family
you get
that
in trouble for him.
no.
Do they read them?
No. Well, what he was doing basically is he was journaling. So he was like writing down, his innermost thoughts and things like that, and he reads them like he reads them. It was recorded on like a tape deck, and they
Oh,
play them, and he sounds just like Warren Jeffs. Like it's
oh,
scary.
oh.
Like it's so bizarre. Yeah, it's
That
crazy.
guy's voice and the fact that he still has the power over people while behind bars. Like they still think he's, I don't know about anymore. It's been a while since I looked into the mess.
Well, for me, it's easy to put those two together because
Really?
now, do I think that? Hell no. But
Right.
when you look at the history of the LDS faith, and when you compare it with the Bible and certain things that we're told, like what is it? Blessed are they that are persecuted for my name's sake, or
Yes.
something like that.
Mhm. Yes.
There's
Yes.
that. And then there's the death of all the apostles that served with Jesus when he was on the earth. They were killed off like one by one. John the Baptist was beheaded. And so there's this mindset that if you're doing good and you're doing right,
Yeah.
then people are going to seek to destroy you. And so,
Mhm.
that's how I think they justify things like
Yeah.
that. Now, with Joseph Smith, supposedly, according to the church, he was martyred. Now, different people have different accounts of that incident and why it happened and all that kind of stuff. But according to church history and church literature, he was killed. He was murdered by a mob of people. Him and his brother Hiram Smith were
Mhm.
both murdered.
And they're
Um,
the founders of the LDS.
um, Joseph Smith is the one that started it, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And then from him, Brigham Young was next in
Okay.
line. Well, he became the prophet after Joseph, and he moved the people out west. We call it the Trek, and it's where they moved from eastern states by tracked literally by foot to Utah.
Wow. By foot.
Yeah.
It's the martyrdom. You are considered heroic. You also see that in different. I can't say the word. So sects of the Muslim. Where you're basically exalted, and you will have a
Yeah.
higher position in the afterlife
Yeah.
for
Well,
your sacrifice of basically, taking
right.
out, and there is so many similarities in, it seems like in the church you grew up in the church I grew up in, is that we have this, we're going to be special in these end times. Now, there are a lot of Christians that believe that they're like pre-trib, to where they believe that we are going to be taken up in the sky, like visually, like literally, before the tribulation begins. But there's a lot that are like mid and post. And so, but you have this role, and like taking, I don't know if this is the same either, but there's this chip that is supposed
Oh
to,
yeah, the mark of
and
the
we're going to
beast.
get this
Yeah.
chip. And if you take that chip, like you lose your salvation, like you have to turn that down, which means when you say no to that, you're going to be killed, like you're going to be murdered. But by denying it, you are a martyr. Like I remember that with, was it Columbine?
Yeah.
That they asked the one girl to deny, like, what was it? Something like deny your faith, or denounce
Yeah.
God or whatever. And she didn't, did she? She wouldn't do it.
I don't
And
remember, but
he let her,
I
he let
know
her live.
whenever people, think about the terrorists and things like that, and the men who flew the 9/11 planes, and they, they're like, I cannot believe, how does somebody do that? It's not
Right.
that hard. It's not
No,
that hard if you think about it. What
no.
people would do in the name of religion and in the
Right.
name of God. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, if you think about how many millions, if not billions, of people are committed to a particular um, mantra, when it comes to how they live life and what they think is right and what they think is wrong. And they do it based on who or what they think a God is or lack thereof. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
as far as all the literal stuff that goes in the Bible, I've read it, and, I don't understand it, but I'm okay not understanding.
And
I
that's a
don't,
sign of
I don't,
wisdom. Like you,
well,
you see,
I'm okay not knowing. I'm totally
yeah.
okay not knowing. I'm good. Um, but um, so let me tell you. Let me hang on. Are there questions in here? Okay,
Oh,
who is?
Paul Eder, that's who I had mentioned, and he was one that was a suspect with Delphi. So not related
Yes,
to
it was no.
that, but
Sorry, A West. It was Mark. It was Mark.
Mark.
Mark somebody.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry.
Yes. Do you believe in God? She stated yes, and she was shot.
Oh wow.
So, and I saw, like a lot of, and yes, like I get it. But at the same time, it's upsetting because there were parents and adults that were coming on and basically like, I want to watch my words here because I don't want to make it sound like I'm being mean to them, or that little girl, because she believed with her whole heart and she was not going to denounce her Jesus. But at the same time, is that really what Jesus would have wanted for her? I don't
Oh,
know. Like I said, I've read the Bible, and the things that Jesus said about his children. And it just kind of, it rubbed me the wrong way that people were like, it seemed like a kid that saw this or heard this, they would be impressionable to be like, well, I'm gonna do that too, and then they get killed. I'd be mad if that was my kid.
yeah.
Just because you say something out of your mouth does not believe that that is what you believe in your heart. Cross your fingers behind your back, but you tell a killer whatever they want to hear, like, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. And that's where things, get so confusing, because you're actually made heroic for, like you said, with the terrorist attacks. You are, and it's completely normal for us to understand that because of how we grew up. It's it seems so crazy to the outside world that didn't grow up with religion as their like that was the focus of their family. You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
but that's the thing. That's that whole cult education, that indoctrination that happens, because instead of following your own moral compass, you're
Right.
taught to turn that over to a group that tells you what is right and what's wrong, as
Right.
opposed to following your own moral compass and conscience.
A
And
group of men.
we're taught you live for God, you die for God.
Right.
That's kind of the message, I think, in a lot of religions. But people don't stop to critically think. They just don't. um, I don't know. I can't say that. I can't.
Yeah, I know what you're trying to say because it is hard to say because you see it in just family dynamics in general of the begat of they're you have to come to a point where you're like, wait, what? Like it came to me naturally because I just have a very questioning personality. I mean, I was the nerd in the library with a list of questions, every week that I had to know the answers to, and we didn't have Google. But a lot of my family members, I mean, they weren't. I mean, I can remember my first experience in a Pentecostal, and I'm talking like the snakes and the talking in tongues, been like real Pentecostal. And I have never been more terrified in my life. This lady tried to convince me, and I was just like, I don't know, I was probably 10. There were snakes on the stage. There was all this crazy stuff, and they were speaking in tongues, which I just think that that's just a crock of shit, to be honest.
Well, I don't know. Well, no, like, I really don't know. Like, I know it says in the Bible about speaking in tongues and things like that. There are references to that, but I genuinely do not understand the
Yeah,
Pentecostal, and I don't understand it, because if you're praising God, doesn't it need to be done so that other people will understand the praise? Does that
right.
make, like you wouldn't go to
Exactly.
China and say in English, "Let me share my testimony of Christ with you," because they wouldn't, unless they spoke English, they wouldn't know what you were saying. You would
Right.
have to speak, you'd have to speak Chinese to them, right?
Yeah, I
So
mean, it's
I
crazy.
just, well, no, and if it's something that it's just personal between them and God,
Then
um,
why don't you do it at home
couldn't
and
that,
not scare the
yeah,
hell out of everybody?
yes, like, why wouldn't you say that in prayer privately? Like,
Right.
but maybe they think it's like a sign or something, and I hate to speculate, especially, on live
Okay.
um,
Like,
a
oh,
live
snake.
thing, but I mean, maybe it's like a sign. Maybe it's a sign that, there is a physical witnessing for the people that see someone talking in tongues of God's power. Maybe that's it. I don't
Oh,
know.
look, but see, to me, it's still it's exalting that person. Oh, look, they have the Holy Spirit coming into them, and if you don't get hit
Um,
by the Holy Spirit and you can't talk in babble, then you're not. And see, that's why it's upsetting for me is because I watch my frail uncle who was not a believer in the Pentecostal teachings, I'll say. Um, our family is mostly Baptist, and his wife was Pentecostal, and he was dying. He died a miserable death, and they got permission from the hospital to take him to the Pentecostal church and to so that he could be baptized because you can't really you're not going to get into their heaven unless you're baptized, and you also have to be filled with the Holy Spirit, meaning that when you come up out of the water, you're just supposed to start talking in tongues. Okay, so remember that my uncle at this point was in hospice. He was so incredibly frail, and they put him in that freaking baptismal. And when he didn't come out of the water speaking in tongues,
oh
uh,
my God.
all these church people basically gathered around him and were like shaking him and
one of the worst memories I have. He died a week and a half later. I mean, he could, the trauma of it, like, and his sons were beside themselves. And I'm like, because they couldn't even watch it and they wouldn't stop. And finally, my mom just had enough. She ran her butt right down in that water. I'm like, that's it. You know, he is too weak to even speak, you know, like, because all of us there, we were there because he was going to be there. But like, it was awful. I mean, it was like one of the worst memories I have. But
so that was four different kinds of abuse.
right?
It was physical on your uncle. It was spiritual for everybody in the room. It was emotional and mental for anybody that had to witness it. And you know, if your uncle was capable of even knowing what was going on, it had to be scarring for him too. I mean, but see, that's what I'm saying. That's why people will take religions and they will get so, like we use the word fundamentalist a lot, and we're not always talking about the LDS culture. We're not always talking about the polygamist. Like there's just, with fundamentalists, you just take key things.
Yeah.
For example, like with you with the baptism, and you have to do this when you come out. Well, that's not written anywhere, but it was probably formed, you know what I mean? Like in the culture, like it just became this thing, this unwritten rule that, you know, it was a sign that you were, you know, giving it to God or whatever. But yeah, that's kind of, I think, what happened with the Daybells and that whole thing with Julie Rowe. They took just a few things, and that was the main focus. They didn't look at anything else or consider anything else. They just really honed in on these, of just these few things.
Right.
So I did find out why Julie Rowe, if you want to talk about that, I did find out why Julie Rowe was excommunicated. She is real big into this energy healing, and I've also heard her in a interview make some remark about shape shifting. Well, I didn't hear that part until recently. I don't know if you guys have seen the Disney movie Moana. But that's
I've seen a lot of Disney movies.
No, Moana or Moana. One of the characters in Moana is like a quote unquote God, and they, you know, it's reference to shape shifting, and I just thought, you have got to be kidding me when I heard Julie Rose say that. So she got excommunicated because as a member, you can use the buildings, like the church wards, not the temples, but the wards. You can use them for different things. You do have to get approved first. Like if you want to have a family reunion there, you have to get approved by the bishop, and then it'll be put on the calendar, or they'll check it to make sure that date's available. But you could have like a family reunion there. Well, Julie was having these seminars there about energy healing. Now, I doubt that she probably charged anybody during that stuff, because we're not allowed to do that. But she probably that introduced them to her, and you know, she's like trademarked at that point. She's got her own books, and she's got her own, you know, there's a book for everything with her, with the energy healing, with the end of times, with the different spirits. I mean, there's a book for everything. So she was holding those, and what she was saying and doing and teaching went against church doctrine. Like we don't believe in energy healing and stuff like that. Like they reference all that stuff as being up to the Savior to do. Right. Yeah. Like soothsayers, and
she was trying to claim that she has, like, you know, psychic abilities as well. I see, if I'm thinking about the right interview. Is that?
Say it one more time. I'm sorry, I was reading comments.
How she was just kind of like, she was more psychic. Is that what you're saying? Or she
she claims to be able
well, I see this, and I see this. This is what, you know, happened, and like, I don't know. That interview was really weird.
Yeah,
had
she
trouble
has.
following it because when you're listening to her, I don't know if you picked that up or maybe Crime and Innocence did. It just seemed very
Unstable.
her language and the way she spoke without pausing. It reminded me
Schizophrenic.
of someone with schizophrenia.
Yes,
Or
absolutely,
delusion,
100%. And
right?
think about this though, and this is, to me, is what's a little mind-boggling about it. But if your LDS is just not that far of a stretch, and here's what it is: if Julie Rowe or Chad Daybell were to walk into a doctor's office and um and the doctor will say, "Hey, why are you here?" "Well, I've got a cold and I need to be super A-OK because my angels told me that I'm going to have to make a trek to the mountains next month. And I just want to make sure, I don't have a flu or anything." And the doctor says, "Angels?" "Well, yeah, the angels, they shape shift." And I
Mm-hmm.
mean, if you go into that kind of conversation, you're going to be put somewhere. The doctors just do a welfare check. You know what I mean? Like, not a welfare check, but you know what I mean. You're going to be put somewhere and they're going to say, "Do you hear voices? Do you
Mm-hmm.
literally hear voices?" And if their answer is yes, they're going to get a diagnosis. Okay.
Right.
But with the LDS faith, the reason I say it's not that far of a stretch. Now, with most LDS members, if you were to go to them and say, "Have you heard about Chad Daybell and Julie Rowe?" And most people would probably say, "Yeah, I stay away from that." Or, "That stuff sounds crazy." And it does. It really does. But if you just stop and consider it for a second, what the LDS faith believes is that Joseph Smith went into like a grove of trees to pray about what church to go to. And they call it the first vision. He literally saw, like, God the Father and Jesus Christ came down, and he literally saw and talked with them, like face to face. He could hear their voice, they could hear his, like he talked to them. So
Mm-hmm.
if he were to walk into a doctor's office today and make that claim, you see
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? Like, I just, I
Right.
don't know.
Right.
I get it. Like, I get how people can take something that made their faith be. It came into existence by a certain specific way, which was a man literally talking with God. Well, if they delve into that, and these people have changed their lives. Like so a lot of people have sold their houses and like moved to where Julie Rose said there wouldn't be an earthquake, or
Oh,
where it wouldn't be that far for them to walk if they had to walk wherever they had to the mountains or whatever. So, and I remember seeing that stuff on that forum. If I told you I've got the screenshots, like
right.
from 2000. Let me think. I'm trying to think of how many kids we had then. So it had to be, I think it was just after 2015. Because that's when I, had a more serious run in with this group, and
Mm-hmm.
it had taken on a new level. I mean, it went from being these books that were cool and, they kept you hanging on and to read, you wanted to read more, and how all that stuff could be a possibility. It went from that to these people are fucking preparing for this. Like, they're not kidding. like
Right.
they really are 100% in. I mean, it just, oh my God, it was crazy.
And that's how I think for you and I'm not saying this with, just in general of what I'd like us to do in a future live would be to dissect some of the other cases involving brainwash, the
Yeah.
cult like and brainwashing and what goes on to where anyone from the outside and see, here's the thing. It's like, I listen to you and I've listened to others and I've listened to, some of the Christian podcasters that have come out or YouTubers that have come out and they say, they are Christians and they this is what they believe. And then yet someone from, say, a Christian, just a Christian church, a Baptist church, whatever, and they look at the beliefs of your church, your religion, and they're like, oh, I could, that's just so far off. Like, how could they believe that or get swept away by that? But it's like, well,
it's not that far of a stretch.
but you are too, in a sense. You know,
Yeah.
you are too.
I'm so sorry.
Swept away, in a sense, by the beliefs of your religious beliefs in your Christianity, if you're bad, whatever. There just aren't any just plain old, I believe in the Bible. That's why I shy away from organized religion, because it's man-made, and most of it is just so riddled with lies.
Control.
And control and manipulation and coercion, and and the human ego. Like that first church I went to, he had those people so mind effed. I'll be respectful of crime and innocence and not say the word. That,
oh my God, I'm sorry, crime. I'm sorry.
You're okay. I don't mind it. I don't like it, just to drop cuss words, throughout the whole thing. But sometimes to me, they're impactful and they're needed. But I don't like to tend to use them all the time. But that first pastor I had, he had them so controlled and so mind fucked that I just did it. Sorry. That they did not even see what was right before their eyes. This was a imposter who I believe will be, because the Bible says so, that the shepherds will be held to a higher standard when they stand before God. And most of them, if Jesus were to come back down to earth and go into the churches, he would do exactly what he did in the temple that we hear about in the Bible. He'd have knocked over tables and got mad
flip
again.
The tables. Yeah, flip the tables.
Right? Because this is exalting yourself. This is not of God. This is of you. And here you are getting up there, complete hypocrisy, because you're stealing from people. You're taking advantage of people. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. But yet he was such a malignant narcissist, and he was so good at that charisma that you see in these cults, that these people there's so many people still this day that they think that he could do no wrong. He is literally God on earth, and that's why I had said that about Chad Daybell. Like, I just don't think he has that charisma about him. I don't know. There's just something about it that just doesn't meet that. Like, that seems like, and it's always an excuse, because at some point we all have to take our own, we have to tally our own self and like, well, wait a minute. But I do understand how you get swept up in that herd mentality of, I have to do this, because if I don't, I'm not going to get to go to heaven. If I'm not a martyr, then I'm going to be in that fiery pit of hell, which I don't even believe is it's actually fire. I mean, that makes no sense. It's darkness. There's dark and there's light. And
so, but think about this. What was Chad? I'm sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead. That was the last thing.
So with Chad Daybell, what his claim was, like, you have to stop and consider, like, with each cult that has a specific leader, what is it that they're claiming? And so with Chad, because he had an LDS audience, he was claiming to know what the average person did not know because of his near-death experience. So he probably claimed to have seen the Savior or met him or something like that. And if you are a believer, whether it's LDS or whatever, but if you're a believer and you live your life daily by faith, when you hear somebody that also lives their life daily by faith, at the right moment, because you know how those malignant narcissists are,
yeah.
they can read people like there's no, like it's nobody's business.
Right.
But,
Mentalists.
so, but at the right time, they tell you a story about a near-death experience they had. And if you could just imagine, sitting on a couch in that moment and what you would feel when somebody tells you that. Especially if you're what I call saving your face to spite your ass. Most people who are Christians don't think that it's okay to react negatively to something, or to call somebody out right there on the spot. Like, that's bullshit. And I don't know what you're trying to do, but you're not going to do it to me. Most people, most Christians, they wouldn't do that. Right. So I think that they would, for me, the reasoning would be, maybe I don't believe it, but I believe he believes it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to think how people, because he had a following. Like, you don't get 22,000 people to pay $49.99 on a website by being antisocial and quiet. So you had, what is the thing that he had? What is it? And I think it was his NDE experiences and his claim to see the events leading up to his second coming. But now, can I just tell you my own theory on that? Like, tomorrow will be closer to the second coming. And then the next day will be even a little bit closer. Like, since the dawning of time, we have been a little bit closer.
Right. Thank you for saying that.
So, but I mean, people always, they just get, so in an upheaval about that kind of stuff. And God knows it's an election year. And I don't know if anybody else has noticed, but every election year, there are some very hot button topics that get put out there in the atmosphere, on the media everywhere, for people to weigh in on. And so people who haven't thought about it or just don't care, whatever, they're kind of, if they're getting to be a responsible citizen of the United States and considering voting, then they're going to start thinking about that kind of stuff. Now, most people already have their mind made up if they vote, but I think that's why they go after young people, because, they're just starting to be responsible. So they have to make a decision. It's like, what side are you going to be on? Nobody says you don't have to be on either side. Right. Nobody says that. Like, you don't have to be either one. Like, you can sign up for a number, for 3 different things, Republican, Democrat, undecided, whatever. But, like, you don't have to agree with just one thing. Yeah. So nobody says that. So, what was my point? God, I hate it when I do that. Get off on a tangent. I'm sorry.
Chad Daybell is following, and like how he was able to get.
Yeah. Well, see, not only that, but you've also got to consider, he is dealing mostly with right wing, people. They're right. Some of them are alt-right, but most of them are just right-winged citizens of the United States. So, or right-wing Republicans. Well, he really, and I don't know this, but if I were a malignant narcissist, I would think that it would be kind of easy to play into people who are anti-abortion and, pro-death penalty, all those things, how it would be kind of easy to paint the picture of what evil would be and how bad the end of times would get, and how not only you can paint that picture for them, but very easily tie it into what's written in the Bible about the end of days.
Right.
It would be, it's almost simple, and it's hard to believe that somebody would actually do that. Right. That somebody would be that manipulative and vile. And that's another question that really bugs me, is that, was he drinking his own Kool-Aid? Was he buying his own bullshit? Or did he know? Did he know it was crap?
I don't think that he has. I mean, I have to guess his whole Okay, so let's just break that down with what he claims, that he had a near-death experience. He spoke to God, yet
and has current visions.
right.
And well, and
So
because he
he's
had that.
involved in himself.
Well, no, but hang on, let's go back. Because he had that NDE, that now sets him apart from your average human being, because most people don't have NDEs. So him having had that NDE, now he claims a specific responsibility under God, because God allowed him to have that and he allowed him to stay. So that gives him a platform with a podium,
Right.
and a microphone. Now it's up to him to relay these things to people. And he claims to be specifically protected by God, just like Julie Rowe is protected by her angels. She says her angels always tell her this and they tell her that. And yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I forgot.
So,
near death. Yeah, NDE is a near death experience. I don't know. I just.
Oh, no. Hang on. So I don't mean to change the subject. I'm so sorry. I do the squirrel thing too all the time.
Yeah.
So I just saw a list of COVID protest politics. Can you imagine when Lori was arrested and then, like, how many days was it that everybody was told to stay home because of COVID? Like, I was just smacking my forehead, like, oh my God. Like, I knew that it didn't have anything to do with that. But the people who were following that, I'm sure that was their confirmation. This is it. This is it. She's going to get out. I also know there's a story in the Book of Mormon with a man named Alma, and I cannot remember, Alma and Amulek, I think. And they were going around preaching God's word, and they got imprisoned. Well, they were beat, they were stripped naked, they were starved, and the people who were holding them captors, who clearly were under the influence of Satan, were telling them to deny what they were teaching. Well, they wouldn't. And so these captors went and took all the women and children and all of their literature that they used to study their faith and burned it. Like, burned the literature, burned the kids, burned the women. And Alma and Amulek were inside the prison hearing the cries of the women. And I remember when I read that when I was truly a believer, it was about my fourth time going through that book. And this is a thick book, okay? Like, I was dedicated. But I remember, I remember at one point crying because I thought, my God, could you imagine that? Like, so anyway, at the end of the story, their chains fall off, literally. There's an earthquake and it breaks the prison walls. And the exact quote is, and they walked out like lions, and their enemies, and their enemies scurried. Their enemies scurried, right? Like, no, this is Book of Mormon, and their enemies.
That's in the Bible too.
Okay, yes, but this is specific to Mormonism. So, I'm sorry, hang on. So it says that they walked out like lions, and their enemies scurried like goats with their young.
Yeah.
And so there's that. Like, and if you believe that, then it's not so far of a stretch to, believe that something like that today could happen. If people think, well, if they really believed it happened back then,
right?
Why would somebody believe that it couldn't happen now? Like, what reason would somebody? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Like, it's not rational to believe something like that. It's totally irrational. But that's where it gets confusing to me. That's why I kind of stepped away from religion in general. Right. Like, I don't want anybody to tell me anything about God. I'm good. But most people who leave the LDS faith, they don't go anywhere else. A large percentage-wise, a huge majority just don't go anywhere else, and they never do go anywhere else. Like, it's just
yeah. It's so crazy, the overlaps, though, because I'm not sure if I'm saying their names right, but Abimelech and I think it was Malachi. I mean, that
Abimelech.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
used to sing
Oh,
like a little,
and
little
It's Shadrach.
church
No,
rhyme about
Shadrach,
it.
Meshach,
Shadrach, Meshach,
Meshach,
and
and
Abednego.
Abednego.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the same kind of story about that. I mean, they broke their, like, they were, and then you got, you know, Daniel in
Daniel in the
lion's
lion's
den,
den.
and then
Yep.
Daniel in the, like, or was it Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego that were in the fire? I'm not
They were in
sure
the
which.
fire, and Daniel was in the lion's den.
Lion's den, and the lions lay down like, you know, like a lot
like
of
lambs.
similar like stories that, yeah, I get what you're saying, to where if someone had an NDE and you see everything that's going on in the world right now, and you can connect that to what your platform is of like what you're going to stand on. So yeah, and people do, we have it's just human nature to want something more, or to not think that we die, we go in the ground, and that's it. I mean,
and to have to know answers. We have questions, and we have this need to have answers. And I have learned to be in this place where I'm okay not knowing. I'm okay.
And
I'm content right here.
And that's the thing, that I had to do that same thing when, you know, I got done reading the Bible as an adult without all of the stuff that was taught. And I just had to come to the conclusion that I don't know, because I'm human, I'm God, but and that's okay. I don't know the answers because I'm not special, you know, and I see so many Christians and people of other religions that they think they're special, and that they have this knowing. And, you know, look at Solomon in the Bible. I mean,
I know.
It's like, the wisdom, true wisdom, is being able to accept that you're not going to know everything. Does that mean you stop trying? Absolutely not. But
I think you hit the nail on the head.
It's okay. There's things that I am not going to be able to understand, and that's okay. And
I think you hit the nail on the head there. Acceptance is huge.
Yeah.
Like, it's huge. It's, most people go the avoidance route, but acceptance of, you know, acknowledging, you know, I don't know. I don't have the answers. You know, I can believe, or I can choose not to, but not knowing is okay, and being able to say that. Let me back up to the questions real quick. So they want to know if it was Book of Mormon or Bible. So the story about Alma and Amulek, that's in Book of Mormon. And I say Alma and Amulek, I'm like 99.9% sure it's Alma and Amulek. I know it's Alma, but I can't remember who was with him going around to the different cities to preach the gospel. I'm pretty sure, I think it was Amulek. The story about Daniel in the lion's den was Bible, and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego was Bible. And also, have you ever thought about Exodus with Moses and the serpent? I mean, come on. The serpent, the sea, the Red Sea.
The Red Sea, the walls of Jericho. I mean, I could go on and on. The staff, Abraham's staff, you know, like, the killing of anyone that didn't have a blood mark on their door. I mean, Saul, then Paul. Just, I mean, yeah. There's.
Yeah, that was the Passover. So I have got a little girl that wants mommy to come to bed with her. Say hey, everybody.
Hey. Hi, sweetie.
So I have got to run, but let's do this again.
Yeah, I think we're just touching the surface of, you know, and yeah, Nick, I completely agree. I don't think we are supposed to understand. And that's where people get lost. And I think there are certain people with certain personalities that they want to be, they're narcissistic, and they want to be they want to be so special that they know they have got it figured out. And I see it a lot. and they want to be in this elite group to where they can exalt themselves and everybody else is just dumb. Like you're a sheep. And you see it in other things. I've even seen it in this kind of thing of like, you see it in politics. Oh, you're just a sheep. It's like
Sheeple. There's sheeple.
Sheeples in crime. There's sheeples in politics. There's sheeples in social issues. Just sheeples all around the world. But
what I teach my kids is that shit's for the birds, man. Like it just stay out of the gutter. Stay out of the gutter. I just don't. I don't even.
Yeah, I do too. Life's not fair. You're not,
right.
And I know that sounds harsh to say, but in a world where we're raising all of these entitled children, I do. Yep. I'm like, you're not special. You are special, but you are not special to where you get to treat other people disrespectfully. You're not special that you get to cut someone in line, because you just, and I think that's so important of just realizing that, like, that's how people get so caught up and they get swept away with these ideologies because they want to be so special and they think that they are. Well, really, it's just like narcissism.
Yeah. And if they're special, then why would they need to work for what they have? Why wouldn't it just be given to them? Right.
And someone had said earlier, I don't know if you saw that, about why does this keep highlighting the whole chat? Like I'm trying to copy it. Someone had said earlier about why didn't God tell them that they were about to get caught, Chad and Lori Daybell, like, or
why didn't the angels tell them? Yeah.
They sure acted like guilty, regular old humans after the fact, when if they really did it because they are awesome and martyrs, why are they acting like they committed a crime?
It's going to be interesting to see. I know. It's just going to be like, I want to know now. I am part of this generation where we have Wi-Fi. I want to know now how it unfolds and what does get revealed. I mean, I do want to know if it was Alex or if it was them or if Alex done it and Chad helped. I'm ready to see.
Well, they're all guilty in my eyes. I mean, look at Charlie Manson.
Yeah. Well, now that we know that the kids are no longer alive, that I've gone back and looked at that interview that Nate Eaton done, where he catches them in Hawaii. Yeah. And they're like, where are your kids? Can you talk about your kids? You had a lot to say on the podcast. And their faces, it was like reality set in, or what does it say? Reality sunk in. And they realized, oh shit, the cat's out of the bag. Like, here we go. Like their face, you could literally see their faces just kind of, sink down a little bit.
Yeah, off in Hawaii. God, you even imagine. I know you got to go. So we will.
Let's do this again.
Yes, we will. And thank you so much for coming on and talking to us.
I'll be able to go in. I'll be able to go in the chat.
Oh, cool.
I'll be able to talk to y'all, but I got to go lay down with her.
Okay.
It's way past bedtime. All right. Love you guys.
Bye. Have a good one.
Bye. You too.
She's so cool. See, I could marry her voice. Yeah, I think it just gives you that insight that without her, we would not be able to understand how so many bought what he was selling. You know what I'm saying? And I just think that her coming forward, and I know that it's hard for her, and it's hard for me to talk about because it brings up a lot of things, and there's still things that I can't get past that still, as much work as I did to deprogram myself, there are things that are much harder. And it affects me still to this day of thinking, no, that is like with the demon possession of just things that are not like, okay, so let's like psychic abilities or prediction, or different things like that. Mental illness is a big one. I mean, that was, if you had mental illness, that was not a brain chemistry or brain, wave being off. It was demonic, and you just needed to be a better Christian or pray that away. And some of those things are still hard for me to like break loose of the chains of them so that I can grow as a human. And it's crazy how the indoctrination is so powerful. And there are so many people out there that are searching for something. They're searching for something that gives their life meaning. They're searching for something that makes them feel important and wanted and included. And there are people that prey upon that. And that's how you get Chad Daybell's Blit, how you get Charlie Manson's of the world, and just, I mean, there's so many examples, and have to look. Who is it? Who I keep mentioning him, and then I'll remember when I'm not on here, and I'm like, that's it, his name. But I mean, they all, like, all of his followers just have this big, off the grid. They're self-sufficient, and they all committed suicide together. And it's like a mass suicide. What was his name? Jim Jones. Thank you. Jeez, yes, Jim Jones. Like, another good example of that. You've got someone that is, I don't know if you guys ever watched The Mentalist when it was on. Just that, or some like Jim Jones, that power of persuasion, that charisma, I have something special and I'm going to let you have it too. The Tom Sawyer story, to where he was able to, in the book, like he was able to convince, I can't remember the character's name, but that painting a fence, he wanted to go play and he was upset about having to paint this damn fence. And so, this kid comes along and he convinces him that painting the fence it's not work. It's actually so much fun. And he was so good at that manipulating, and that he not only got this kid to paint the fence for him, but he paid him to paint the fence. And then little Tom Sawyer went on about, had him a good day off. And then other kids saw this kid working and they wanted to join in. I mean, it's the same thing. It's the same concept. That wore all white, shaved heads. Oh my gosh. Who was that? Oh, like the white supremacists? It's the same thing. They want to be included, and what was that? Hey guys, bunk beds. Hare. Was that it? I'm not remembering that one. But, on smaller levels, every day, we're all a little bit sucked into being manipulated and brainwashed, and the propaganda that we see daily when you turn on the TV, even in shows. I've seen it. I watch a lot of crime shows, but I also watch a lot of fiction. You can't watch an episode of Law and Order SUV without, I notice them, surely other people do too, where they're pulled straight from the headlines and they're always controversial and they're always leaning one way. And those things, and then what they do in the schools. My daughter came home, she took a college prep type class in political science, and then another one in world history. I couldn't have been more pissed off at the slanted things that she was being forced to learn about and write about. And she came home with this test of whether they had the far left, the far right, but the wording of it, just the wording alone was, set up to make anyone that was conservative automatically be in a heaven's gate. Yeah. Automatically be in this, that had a negative connotation. It was bad if you were, on that conservative, you're basically a freaking Nazi, you're you're all of these things. And then on the other side of that, the liberal, and you're better. Like if you fall on that part of the quiz, well, it's, you have A, B, C, or D, and they don't have one for neither. And all the questions are literally set up as word manipulation to make it appealing to young minds that basically that socialism is the way we need to go. I mean, it was like Bernie Sanders wrote it himself. And what time is it in Indiana? Oh, Lord. Oh, my Atlanta. It's 12:13 a.m. Whew. Yeah, that was a weird cat. Oh, yeah, that's right. Sure. Central. We're Eastern Daylight Time. But like I said, I just get going when it hits, midnight, 1 o'clock. I'm just getting all riled up. I cannot sleep. The Beatles sang about them, John Lennon. Oh, 1:15 there. Yeah, but I was like, I really enjoy talking to her, and I know you guys do too. She's super smart, and she's got. No, I'm in Indiana. Hey. Yeah, I live in central Indiana, so we're on Eastern Daylight, to where they're on central. They're up north. The no sleep team, that's right. Like I literally, it sucks. Because you have to, like I still have to be quiet. I would prefer to clean the house and do laundry in the middle of the night, but like everybody else is asleep. So, I'm trying to clean the house in the dark but I've been trying to do better. I found that if I take my ADD medicine at like 2 or 3, I can sleep at night. It's just, I know a lot of people think that's weird, but I accidentally did smoked some cocaine one time because I was so naive with my upbringing. I didn't know what the word meant. I'm like, wanted to be cool at a party. So like, sure, I'm cool. And then, yeah, it had the exact opposite effect on me. I ended up in the snow asleep and got burns on the backs of my whole body where it was exposed to the snow. So yeah, I think that makes sense why ADHD medicine helps me sleep at night. It turns my brain off. I don't think she said, but I do too. I mean, it's got that southern drawl for sure, but there's also something that makes it a little bit different. I accidentally spoke cocaine. Well, it was like called a Mo, and I thought it was a blunt, and so I'm like, sure, it looked like a blunt, and I didn't know, and so yeah, that was a bad night. It was a real bad night. I mean, I could have died. We were in the middle of a blizzard, and here I am asleep in the snow. I mean, I could have, I don't even know if the snow had got high enough because, like I said, it was a blizzard. So, and I was pretty little. I could have just been covered by snow and died. It was crazy. Someone did see me through the window though, and came and got me and brought me inside. But right, and that is the day that, other than knowing that I'm actually glad for that because it kept me away from drugs. I smoked weed, but like I never did anything else because, for one, my family, I've watched I literally watched the faces of meth every Christmas, and I never wanted to look like that, and I never wanted to be. We have that addictive gene, and but yeah, like I knew from a very young age that if I tried drugs, I was convinced that I would be an addict, and so I stayed away from them. So that little accident, in my naivete, actually kept me from doing anything because it's like, oh, that was horrible. Like, I don't ever want to be like that. Like I thought I was going to die. That's why I went out into the snow, because I felt like I was on fire on the inside. And so I went out and laid in the snow and fell asleep. So it was a blessing, and that's the thing is I teach that to my kids is in life, we're all going to make mistakes, but they're not really mistakes. If you learn from them, then they're a moment in your life that you grew as a human, and you use that to become who you are and a better person. You rose above that mistake, and you learned from it, and therefore it's not a mistake anymore, it's a life lesson. Mel, did you hear my story on the monkeys in my room when I started Medical M? No, I did not. On monkeys? On the monkeys in my room? Were you tripping? Crime, were you tripping? Was it the band? Hey, hey, we're the monkeys. I used to love the monkeys, and I was like the only weirdo in my class that liked the monkeys. It's like, I just do. They were chasing me. Like, for real? Or was this like a hallucinogenic type experience? Yeah, that's one that I mean, ecstasy? I did do that, and because of my phobias, I would never do that again because I touched more people than I've touched in my whole life on ecstasy, and I don't like. I don't. I'm like the guy in the movie with Helen Hunt and Jack Nicholson. Like, I'm Jack Nicholson, kind of a deal. So every time I even think about that, or even like drinking too much, where I get like, touchy, I can't handle it. It haunts me like weeks after. So just, well, I don't know, big weirdo. But mushrooms, it's kind of. I better be quiet. Do you have a good hallucinating story, Nick? Would you like to call in and tell us? I hope crime really does dig into the psychotic breaks of, like, Spice, for instance. I mean, man, I remember this one guy my sister was dating, and he got hooked on Spice, and I don't know what is in that shit, but he literally turned into like a wild animal. Like, it was like hearing and then like watching a scene from Vampire. My kids watch that, like Vampire Diaries, I think it's called. I'm just watching it with them the other night. I mean, it was scary. Like, he broke through a door, like, and this wasn't a strong kid, big kid, and he was growling and I mean, it was like watching a rabid animal. And then the guy that I saw punching himself when I went, in like Fight Club scene, and and the guy said he was on Spice. Ooh. It was crazy. But yeah, just right. That's all right. We'll talk about hallucinogenics because I do. I mean, I want to be careful with what I say there because I like y'all probably know, I mean, I love philosophy and digging into the inner workings of my own mind and others as well. And sometimes we have so many things that hold us back in our sober state. That's why I want to be careful with what I say, but sometimes we need to go outside of ourselves a little bit to understand ourselves. And some of the things that, like peyote, or I've never done that. I've never done any kind of the ritualistic type things where you go on like some, weird sit in a tent or whatever type deal. But if you want to hear more about that, go to Joe Rogan's podcast and listen to them talk about it on those episodes. My mind is scary enough on the outside. I have no want to go explore in there, right? I probably shouldn't either, but because, I mean, yeah, The Exorcist. Whew.
That was one that I forced myself to watch that because I wanted to start getting over some of the fears I had, because like that's, you know, something we grew up with, was like, you know, my mom and my mom's friend would attend these exorcisms, and I mean, Lord, talk about scare the living daylights out of you. Gotta lose yourself to find yourself. Yep. Sometimes. Right. That's true too, though. And you've seen that happen, you know, and you also see it like Dangerous Minds of why is it that like Einstein and a lot of these geniuses, I have some in my family that they're like legit genius, IQs off the chart, and it's that chicken or the egg, which came first, the schizophrenia, but to me, I think it's the IQ off the chart that no one else can like really understand it. And I think that it's like because your mind has so much that it stores in this particular area, and then it leaves you susceptible to going crazy. Not kind of like crazy, but to for your mental health. I mean, it seems like a lot of highly intelligent people over time I don't know what I'm trying to say. Yeah, definitely socially awkward, and they have struggles that like other people cannot understand. And like, why is it that the mental illness comes in, and it comes in with such like force, and it would be like being in solitude, like in a jail. Right. Are you talking about just having an intellect like above, right? Yeah. Yeah, but in your mind. I mean, just is there anybody out there? Can you hear me? High IQ, yeah. And they lack that being able to relate to anyone else, because their brains are just not wired to think of mundane and normal, like because they're so smart. They can't, like, they cannot relate. But I'm glad I ended up coming on. I think that I had a good time, and it was still, even though we were talking just a little bit about crimes, I had a good time. And I know that, you know, just from watching Crime and Innocence with funny videos, like I was confused. I did catch on and then felt dumb, but I thought it was maybe like a memorial for someone. I'm like, wow, there's just a lot of different people in these videos. But yeah, just having and just chill, just like, it's been a busy week but I do want, maybe I'll do that next Sunday of where I was at tonight. Met up with an old friend, and he's married now, and
his wife was so awesome. We had such a great time, and just being like, I think sometimes we get it, this is comfortable for me just because I am such a homebody, and I do have like phobias and things, and so this is where, this is comfortable. But looking someone, and then with the the virus we can't name, so dumb, this, you're separated from people. I mean, I've loved it, like, because that's like an excuse for me to get to do what, like, I want, where I want to be. I want to be at home. I want to be with just like the people that live in this home, and my dogs, of course. But like, we need that. We need actual human to human interaction. And I hope that y'all are getting that too, because it was refreshing tonight to be with, like, in person. But she had told me about this case, and I mean, it's right around where I lived after I had graduated high school. And so I was like, how do I never hear about it? It's 40 some years old now. But I thought we could just learn about it together, because I know very little about it. So I thought it'd be kind of cool just to kind of look things up and learn about it. But I'm glad that we got to have a little bit of fun and learn from Early Riser yet again. Such a cool girl. And y'all, thank you so much for being here. It was so fun. And I'm glad it was interesting. I wanted to lighten the stress. Yeah, like, I get it. I think when Hoosier, the Bruiser, was on Incognitos, he had quoted Nietzsche. I'm probably saying that wrong, because I've heard it said Nietzsche and I've heard it said Nietzsche. But, be careful when, I'm going to mess the quote up, be careful of not becoming, when you're studying monsters, not becoming one. And when we're looking at all of this death and brutality of humans to other humans, and the worst of mankind, and you don't ever give yourself something else, because there are many things that are so interesting, like talking about different religions. We can still relate them, but yet it's not so dark. That darkness, we don't want to be engulfed by that darkness. Desensitized, yeah, that's another thing I always worry about too, of being that. And I usually only have to just remember the two, well, in my opinion, three murders that have happened in my family, and a friend of mine was murdered. And that's going to be one of the, after I'm at a place here where I'll never be done. It's never just going to be like, a season, or, these series will continue until there's nothing left to continue on, because justice has been served. And then we'll probably still come back when the appeals are happening. But my friend's murder brutal murder will be coming up sometime this year. He's going sickly enough. He'll be coming up for parole. And this is somebody that should never get to be out. And he's a monster. And I know him, and I know he's a monster. So I'm really nervous about that case, talking about it. But it's also not about me. And more than likely, he'll go before a parole board, and he will be let out because he is full of charm, and he's highly manipulative, and he's very charming, and he's very good with words, and they'll let him out. And if I can do this podcast and have his girls come on and tell the true story, and not, because even the papers didn't even write it up good. I mean, they still, like, even the local papers blamed it on her. And, and just kind of gave him, so if a parole board were to read those, like, oh, this is just the guy that was high. He didn't mean to kill her. Oh, yes, he did. And it was premeditated. And he had many, many hours to think about what he was about to do. And he did it anyway. And he did it in front of 2 small children. And he deserves to be in prison for the rest of his life. But because he was going to make those 2 small children testify in court, they'd already been traumatized enough. But he's so narcissistic that and so the prosecutor gave him a sweet plea deal. So he'll be out. And it's sick. So I hope to be covering that case, and hopefully, it's scary though, because I know he will be out, and he is one of those revenge, you're not gonna get one over on him kind of a guy. He's disturbing. But yeah, and then hopefully come October and we see what happens with the trials and everything. And if, I swear to God, if they don't do something about Ray, like, we're going to have to wait and see, which is just bullshit anyways. Makes me so mad. Then we're going to go back there and push. And I hope people are the snake charmer. Yeah. Don't be sorry. You didn't do anything wrong. But I get you. And then my aunt, I think she was so cool. She used to make me things all the time. I mean, she was like the aunt that everybody wants, like the one that really likes you. And she really likes to listen. She really liked to listen to what you had to say, and when most adults just wanted you to get out of their hair. She made me this stuffed animal one time, and it turned in, it was like 2 stuffed animals in one, because, I didn't have a whole lot. We weren't, destitute or anything, but it was just so special because she made it. It's like, how did you do that? But if you flipped it turned into, on one side of it, it was like a bear. And then if you flipped the top part over, it became a turtle. It was just so cool. But she was always doing stuff like that, and just like the most beautiful woman. I mean, still, she was so beautiful. She had a lot of, I believe it was Indian Cherokee. Yeah. But he's dead. That's my aunt that was murdered. It was a long time ago. But yeah, she was like, and that's the thing, when those bright lights are taken out of the world, those people that make the world a better place because they're in it. Like Shannon. I mean, she was just that kid that like just wanted everybody to be happy, and her smile was contagious. And my friend, she was the same way. She walked in the room and everybody noticed her. Because she was a model. She was beautiful. Like, she was literally a model when she was younger. And but just the sweetest, kindest human. And it's just like, man, why can't like murderers just kill other murderers? Why do they have to take good people that make the world better? Like, what is the plan in that? It just makes you wonder. And and that's the thing, because I saw it with my family, the impact of murder of, my uncle ended up, dying as well. More than likely an overdose. And his son found him. And he just never could recover. He couldn't recover from other people thinking that even after he was completely cleared over and over again, and the killer confessed, and they had the evidence. People still, it's the husband. And he never got over that, and he never got over losing her. And his son found him. He overdosed. And his kids, and now their kids are still impacted by that loss and what took place after that. And so that's been one of the things with my friends' girls, because they were young when this happened. And now they're, graduating and they're starting careers, and they have just literally they're so awesome. Like, the impact of that. He didn't win that day. He didn't win. He took their mother, who gave them all the love and things that they needed to learn in the short time that they had her, and he did not win. They won, because they didn't become of course her murder impacted them, but it didn't define and rearrange their life moving forward. They are so amazing and so kind and good, and they're just like their mama. And you see that with others, and I often find myself thinking of Nicole's boys, and I'm so glad that they have Cheryl, and that she's able to step back and be like, I can't be angry about the injustices. I can't be angry about what happened to my daughter. I can't let this consume me, because then it will consume them. And she's so right. Like, she is putting those boys ahead of her, which is that's just love. That's love. And they'll be better off for it, because, like with my uncle, like, it consumed him, and it ruined my cousins' lives. Like, legit ruined their lives. So many things happened to them that were just terrible, and it still ruins their children's lives because of them. And but yeah, like, I'm so honored to know Cheryl, and that those boys have her, and they are like, I can't wait to meet them. And and you think of Ray, and I know he didn't have children of his own, but I've spoken to some of his a niece and a nephew, and to see that they are honoring him, and that family just keeps love first, and they're not going to let, like, with a mother in your family, a matriarch like Dottie, and the strength she has, and the strength of her daughters, and like, they're all, you can make it's never going to be okay. It's never going to be the same, and it's always going to be a complete tragedy. But in those circumstances, when you rise above them and you can still create love moving forward out of that, I don't know. I don't know if I would be able to. Hey, you're back. Well, we're just getting ready to sign off. Really, Riser, I was watching the same video you were. Yeah. Yeah, that is. And in those moments, having this is what I hope will help, with mental health, of making sure you stay connected somewhere, because I think a lot of people, they don't know about these kind of communities, and they don't have this, and they're used to having, especially, introverts or extroverts that need that. And yeah, I mean, it is a worry. And I hope that, these different YouTubers in our little nook here can help you and give you somewhere to go to connect with people, so that. But yeah, I mean, March said that's when I was quarantined as well, and it was almost 9 weeks, I believe. And I was worried for probably the opposite reason that you were. I was worried that I was going to never leave the house again, because I have the opposite, issues of, it's hard for me to, leave the house and to be around small groups. Totally love, but any crowded space, and I just avoid, which is not healthy for me at all. But I liked it too much, and I was just able to relax, and that's not good for me. And so I was worried about my mental health, of that I would not go back out. I don't know. I do know that I have no, I can't say that on here because I can't. But I took a test one time, and someone was convinced that they wanted to prove how dumb I was, basically. And it ended up proving the opposite of that. And to the point where this person made me retake the test because they thought that I'd somehow cheated the computer I didn't even know how to use. Because this was a long time ago, where you had to send it away, like a real legit, this IQ test. And I blew him out of the water, by a lot. And he thought he was super duper smart. And I had no idea. I mean, I didn't really care. I knew I didn't do good at taking tests, so I didn't expect much, but it was pretty easy. And, but I don't really know. I don't know the legitimacy of that. I just know I was smarter than him, and that made me really happy. And if I could tell you the story, he would definitely know why. But Yeah, and I think, my daughter, she has a very high IQ, and I worry, because she gets very discouraged in some conversations or topics and things, and she is socially awkward, and I think she feels lonely a lot. And we talked about that over the years of just making sure that her emotional IQ is as good as her intellectual IQ. And then my younger one, man, she's got her she's her intelligence is scary in her street smarts, in her ability to read people, and but I think that it's just a number, and it doesn't, I mean, I think it's more of that the dangerous mind that I worry about, of just how I'd love to study the brain like that. I love neuroscience as well, like all these weird topics. But y'all all to check out the documentary with what is it called? Help me out here. He's a neuroscientist that basically studies serial killers' mind and trying to find that the killer. He studies the brain chemistry of psychopaths. Basically, in his study of psychopaths, he used blind studies, and he also did Alzheimer's. And so for the blind part of comparison, he used his family, including himself, in the trial of comparison of no Alzheimer's versus Alzheimer's or whatever. But he actually accidentally got his, because they don't have names on them, obviously they're scientific studies, and so he had his was accidentally put into the study of the psychopath's mind, the study, and that's how he found out that he was a psychopath. And so he's so interesting, because it just like gives you a whole new perspective on psychopathy, and like how he will openly talk about his lack of like connection and empathy, and the things that his family has noticed about him. But yet he's not like the people that he studies. He's not a sadistic killer, but yet he can recognize those things in his personality. It was so fascinating. Yeah, he was also a psychopath. Yes, like that. And he found out, I mean, he said that he kind of thought that he was, but when he saw his own brain, and was like, well, this is not like, why, this is not like, what's going on here? That's supposed to be over in that study. And they told, like, oh, that's yours. It's like, what? Didn't he have a killer in his family too? Oh man, I can't remember. I don't remember that. I mean, it's possible. I'd have to go back and verify though before I would speak to it. But yeah, that guy fascinates me. There's a bunch of YouTubes and some shows on the TV that you can watch about him. But for one, is there a place in the brain that is, that study, and is, oh, James Fallon. Yeah. Like, he is so interesting. So interesting. Yeah. Not thought, I mean, he just had it was just the lack of empathy. He wasn't thoughtful. He could be very self-centered and narcissistic, and like he started kind of like, oh yeah, duh, like in his family, like he started talking to his family members about it, and they're like, yeah, you're a lot. You're a lot. And then the is there a killer gene? Like, is there a gene or it's not just going to be one gene, but are there genes that, and it has to be in the long arm, in the genes that are infected by the environment, like the because they're not always turned on. I want more too short. Like Too Short, the rapper? Yeah, there was like a mix up with he thought he was going in and looking at the brains of the Alzheimer's in that study. And he had done the blind of his own brain and members of his family for comparison. And then when he opened up the brain scans, his came up, and they're not, because they are, scientifically, peer-reviewed studies. Like, they don't have names on them, and the researchers don't know those names either. Normally they're put in and, shuffled around or whatever. But he put his family in to compare to the Alzheimer's, because there wasn't any Alzheimer's in his family or something. But when he pulled up he's like, oh, hey, like, you put the wrong one in here. This goes in the psychopath, like, because it had the same brain. They're like, no, that one belongs. And he was like, well, this is, like, my family. Like, and they're like, so yeah, like, he ended up finding out that was his. It was pretty cool. Yeah. Oh, one more too short? I don't know. I mean, how long has it been? It came on like 10:30. But yeah, like empathy and morality are in the front lobe of the brain. Decision making in psychopaths, the brain has decreased activity in that area. Yeah, I knew it was somewhere, the frontal lobe. But yeah, isn't there like is it amygdala, or like a certain specific new thing that they were trying to do? I don't remember, but oh, good, because it's 1 a.m. I feel bad. Yeah. Yeah, I wish they would do like a freaky. I wish he would have a podcast. Oh my gosh, can you even imagine the crazy ass stuff that if he had a podcast? Oh, I would be anxiously anticipating each new episode. But yeah, I mean, for one, you'd have to put it on like slow down, because he talks super fast. But I think it's just so interesting. I would, and his acceptance of it, like he's which is probably part of what makes him a psychopath, that he's okay with being a psychopath. But anatomical patterns, Mel, in different parts of the brain. Yeah. But where, like, there's that, are you talking about like like a brain that's like lit up and firing correctly, and then you have these like areas that are just not lit up. Like that's how they have been able to look at each one and like compare so many different ones and be able to say, okay, like, yeah, this area, just in layman's term, like this area is just not even lit up, or it's barely firing. And so like the gray matter or something like that, is that what, just in layman's terms, of like what they look at when they're looking at MRIs of brains? Yeah. Okay. All right, guys. Y'all funny. Well, let's all go to bed, or not. I'm going to go watch some TV because I can't go to bed without unwinding a bit. And I can't really watch anything that's not about murder and mayhem. Look up Mary Ellen O'Toole. I know that name. Former FBI profiler. She is so smart and will still analyze violence in society, like shooters in LA. I think I have. I think she's been featured on a couple of the podcasts that I do listen to. Has she been on Murder Squad? Or what's the other one with the retired FBI agents? I can't remember, but before you go, where do we find your podcast if they're not going to be on YouTube? I will get a link. Hold on just a sec. No. Why is it doing that? Okay, so when you go on here, you will see that I have one episode for Shannon Polk. Or here is the one episode for Shannon Polk. And then
I go into series 2 here. So when you're listening, because I just like play them all until, they go off. So, but on mine, I still haven't figured out a way to get these in order. So they're just in order as to when they were published. So you'll have to skip the first one if you're wanting to listen to this series 2 of Nicole and Ray. And then when you want to listen to the Shannon Polk, you will listen to the first one that I ever put out, and then skip to the ones after this last one that I did for Nicole and Ray, which I'm still not done with that one. And then I did this one that's just when I wasn't going to release something that day. But I'm trying to go back to where I can share the whole. But if you go on there, see if it'll show up. I'll always put them in my Facebook group too. So if you join Cold Truth Podcast Facebook group, like they'll always show up in there. And then I'm on iTunes. But if you want to follow along with the chat, then come here. And then you would hit, like, when you're looking on them, there'll be like a little star. And when you hit the star, that means you're following me, and you'll get a notification of when the next episode goes live. But you have to create a profile on the app. So you'd have to download the Spreaker app, and you go to your app settings, and it'll be right there. And just download the app. Don't download Spreaker Studio, but the Spreaker app where you can listen. And then make a profile, and they're free. You can make it whatever you want. And then, so say I want to listen to another podcast. Who am I not following? So I would click on it. And then you can subscribe. They don't have, what's the word? Never mind. I don't know why I'm trying to teach. I always have difficulty with this. I guess I'll just link one episode, and then you can find the rest by the one episode. Where's the share? Sheesh. So weird. I don't even know how to work my own stuff. Sorry, guys.
Hmm. There. Is that clickable? Yeah, you can go, you can Google, you can listen on iTunes and leave a review because those do help. And Spotify, and it's on like a bunch of other ones that I haven't even attempted to try to understand. But if you sign up on Spreaker, because I'm not going to be putting the episodes on because they affect my statistics. And so I'm not going to be putting them on YouTube anymore. Plus, I mean, I don't pay for YouTube, so I can't just like turn it off and just listen. So they don't really get a lot anyways, but when people listen on there, it takes away from my audience. And so because I'm still trying to build that, I'm not going to upload it there anymore because it doesn't count it as downloads on the podcast. To where I'd really like to at least get to the point where it's, it's making enough income that it covers the $20 a month to pay for it. So if you join the Spreaker, we can chat right along with the episode, and I'm always available in the chats when I release a new episode. And I will try to make sure y'all know. But if you just hit follow, then and except for notifications, you'll get notified when I release a new episode and go live. Okay, so that's a link to just one. That's like the introducing. And then if you hit the star, that means you're following me on there. And then hit the heart when you come into the chat instead of the thumbs up. And then we chat live during the episode. So Monica joins and share. And sometimes we get a few others, but it'd be and Angie joins, and it's fun just to listen to it and get feedback as it's playing. And that's what it's all about. Like, it's meant to create discussions. And other than the four of us, there hasn't been. And it'll be on this next episode of how, like, this is, talk about it. Like this is that we need to spread it and talk about it. Like, that's the whole point. And there's just this silence after the episodes. And I don't know if it's like people are afraid, they just want to compliment it or whatever, or afraid to say, but I don't care. Like, I think you find the truth comes out when you can put aside all of the perceptions of reality that people have, the perceptions of the truth, the versions of the truth. And so if I say something wrong, or you see something on there that's not right, like, say something. I'm not one to like think I'm always right. Definitely not. And so I want that feedback. I want the feedback, the negative feedback. I don't mind it at all. There's someone on here. Well, it's not Early Fox, but it's like Running Fox. And she listens on YouTube, and she'll comment like, hey, yeah, like the sound, man,
your content's good, but like the sound, the music, the background music was just way too loud. And it was like, thank you. Like, I appreciate that. Like, constructive criticism is how you can grow. So yeah, like I would really appreciate feedback on those episodes. And I don't mind negative. If there's something that's just like, man, like you should have not said that, or you should have not talked about that, or that's not right. Like, give it to me. I want to hear it. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to quit rambling and try to go to bed. Y'all have a good night, and thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And I'm sure we will meet again sometime this week in many of our friends' lives. And we'll see you on the flip side. Have a good one.